Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Bob. Hey, Anna. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's meditation session.
Cico, your microphone is off.
Today is Monday, also the beginning of a new week, the beginning of a new business. Not that business, but business, B-U-S-Y. The mind is busy, right? Always busy with all kinds of things. The very state of being busy is a mere reflection of the fear for being empty. Of course, for each ego, being empty is very scary, is it? Because the emptiness can dissolve the ego. And the very attachment to the ego creates the fear for being empty. While the fact about life is emptiness. Any kind of endeavor from the mind, which is against nature, always creates all kinds of sufferings and issues on the mind. Look at all human beings. All kinds of mental challenges come from not being able to with fact. So consciously or subconsciously, the mind is always resisting to those facts. And this sort of unnecessary resistance creates all kinds of issues. So I think today people found whereby people found YouTube, people found aware. To meditate for everyone is to understand this resistance so unnecessary. why we are holding on to this sort of resistance all the time. There are so many facts, the human beings, the natural mind, the interaction between human beings, which is always misled by the concept of the self, the concept of the ego, the concept of individuality, which blocks the view of seeing and perceiving the nature properly. So before we continue the exploration of the mind together here today, as usual, let's keep silent for 3 or 4 minutes, during which everyone could observe the breath, come back to breath time and time again, or you can simply reflect how many moments of day you were not present. Then we come back for the first part of the exploration today. to meditate is to observe the mind deeply. Go deep. Going deep does not mean that one has to go into the thoughts, get trapped in by thoughts. That's not deep at all. But that's most people mean by deep. Which seem to be involving this kind of a deepness, like scientists, researchers, different jobs, which is wrecking the brain. It seems to be deep, but unfortunately, it's another level of shallowness, another level of superficiality. Getting trapped by the thoughts has nothing to do with deep. Being caught in thoughts is still a very superficial way of life, is it? Blocked and kidnapped by some illusions, thoughts. When one is trapped in thoughts, one can be cunning, one can be smart, one can be clever, but there's no creativity. That's a fact. The creativity only comes beyond the thought. Look at most researchers, scientists on this planet. Why they are not so creative at all? It's not because they are not good at thinking, but most of them don't know how to stop thinking. Now look at the whole world for the research, no matter in which domain. How many people are still talking about philosophy, the nature of mind? If we could not understand ourselves deeply, deeply means being honest with yourself, to see things as they are, to look at the self non-judgmentally, without any theories, stories. That's the deepness we mean. Going deep. But really, unfortunately, most of us are living a very superficial life, right? We are totally misled by the sensations from the mind, all kinds of feelings, all kinds of emotions, and we interpret them as true. So we can say all the troubles of the human beings only come from the human being themselves. People may ask, what about the earthquake? All kinds of natural disasters. Look within. Let's just observe the mind carefully. For the earthquake, for all kinds of natural disasters, are they the true troubles people are facing? Or can they be called troubles? Probably not, right? When you are facing with these natural disasters, all kinds of earthquake, flood, for example, in the very facing them, there's no trouble. The trouble only comes from the thought, the fear arising from thoughts. But when we talk about thoughts, that generation of thoughts, it no longer belongs to the natural disaster. It's the human issues, right? There's a story from Zhuangzi, a very famous Chinese philosopher, more than 2,000 years ago. In his writing, he shows us such a story. There's a boat on the river, and there's a man standing on the boat. Suddenly, there's another boat coming towards to this boat, and unfortunately, the two boats clashed. But the other boat, there's no people on that boat. And the man standing on this boat has a very bad temper in his life. But in this situation, he still stays calm. He just accepts the result. The boats are clashed. That's the first story. There's another story. It's just a slightly different version from this one. Still, this man standing on this boat. But there, not but, and also there's another boat coming towards to this one. But there is another man standing on the boat. And unfortunately, that boat is coming very fast toward this boat and almost hitting it. So the man standing on this boat began to yell and told the other man, "Be careful, be watchful. The boat is almost hitting my boat." But there's no response from that man. And eventually, also unfortunately, the two boats were clashed. This time, this man was very angry, furious. What can we find? What can we get from this story? The results are the same, right? The boats are clashed. But in the first situation, the man was calm, accepting the result, because it seemed to be resistant. It seemed to be unchanged. In the second situation, the result stays the same. But the man has become so furious. He couldn't accept the result, which seemed to be able to be controlled, because there's another man standing on the other boat. The results are the same in terms the clash between the two boats. But people have a different reaction to it. Totally different. Perhaps this story also reminds you of your life's experience at some point. You see, all the troubles come from the human beings themselves. When there's only one man in the story, nothing could trigger the self, because nobody around. Even for this very unfortunate outcome, no self is triggered. But in the second story, the second version, it's becoming very different. When two people are in the story, the self are triggered. Why self is triggered? Maybe you have your observance, your understanding. But can we see the assumptions behind it? We think we can control everything. I can control my boat, so I self-project this onto you and think you can also control your boat. So I create a scenario of what should be on my mind. You can control the boat, so we won't clash. But what is happening is that the boats clashed. Because of self, we create an image which is called what should be. Where there is a what should be, there is a division between what should be and what is. That division creates the mental conflict, making it difficult to accept the result. Because one has been attached to what should be.
Cico, I have a question. What is the role of desire in all of this? Because humans are also moved by desire for something we crave, or we want, or we desire, or we longing for. And it's very human nature. So how would you explain that?
The desire, the very intention to want more, seek more, having more. There's the desire to control, the desire to own. Can we observe it on ourselves peacefully? Can we see desire as a reaction to the environmental factors? As Anna said that, indeed, it's part of the human nature. So we couldn't judge it as good or bad, because we all have it. I have the desire to give a session, so to speak. Can we observe it peacefully? At each moment. The purpose is not to get rid of any desires. It is not possible at all, right? To live, you have to desire. But can we be aware of the desire at each minute of the life? To see it. The problem is not that we have so many desires, but the problem lies in we could not see the desires. That's a very problematic, very disastrous. We can't see the desire, so we are enslaved to desires, right? When the desire arises, what we do is try the best to meet, to satisfy the desire. even for the people on the boat. When there's no people on the other boat, nothing can trigger this man to have the desire to control this accident. But when there's a man over there, that very desire arises to tell the other man to control the accident. So to look at all these issues on the mind for the life, it's not to deny it. Oh yeah, we should have no desire. We should control and suppress all desire. It only creates another level of extremity. Only aggravates the issues we all having. But to see them, to be aware of them, that's what we should do. If we could see the desire arising at each minute, each second, the very seeing will give one the option to handle the desire, meet it, or let go of it. That's what we call a conscious life, right? Conscious life means be aware of all kinds of mental actions behind the thought. Not carried away by the content of the thought. When we see for example, a very fancy, modern smartphone being advertised on Instagram, can we see the desire arising from the moment we notice this advertisement without being carried away by the content of this advertisement? This desire might not be difficult to capture for you guys here. But you know that life has been involved in a lot of very deeper level desires. Craving for fame, for example. Craving for money. Craving for a concept of security, so to speak. There are so many deeper level desires. Can we see them peacefully and vigilantly?
Cico, I've heard about cancellation of desire as one of the goals, but probably I'm wrong, of a monastery Buddhist life. But I think what is meant is that by observing desire, you can choose to follow up on the desire and to not continue with it. And by doing so, in fact, that creates freedom. And in the end result could be that you get rid of your ego and therefore of desires. Am I right?
I agree with what you said, Bob. Yes, freedom. When you have a desire, you have the freedom to choose, meet it or let go of it. For the Buddhism part, it's very difficult to give a view on that, because the Buddhist practice is also very chaotic. So many people from different branches, and some people can have a very good understanding of it, and for many people, it can be a little challenging for them to understand the nature of mind, even they call it Buddhist whatever. So it's difficult to give a very general opinion on this kind of a Buddhist views from some people. But of course, totally suppressing the desire is ridiculous, because it is not possible. Because if you want to express all the desires, the very desire to express all the desires is still there. It's created its own issues, right? A circle, like a dog wants to chase his own tail. So probably I misunderstand some people in that community means, but the desire is always there. The thing is that we can make peace with it by seeing it. We are human. The very desire to suppress all desires is simply distorting the mind, right? So for people who are doing Buddhism, it's great. It's also a very good way to bring peace to life. But it's also very important to notice the problems when one is attached to some kind of languages or terms about the mind. And for people who are doing Buddhism, it's great, but my suggestion is that to go beyond it. The most Buddhist way is non-Buddhist. When one really understands the values of a Buddhist, one has to discard everything called Buddhism. That's also the very core value of the Buddhist. Because a true Buddhist never follows an authority. And Buddhism is never an authority. If you follow the Buddhist or Buddhism as an authority, you destroy the Buddhism and the Buddhism. So that's the very tricky part for us to talk about nature mind. Here, we just exchange ideas, to exchange opinions. I'm not your teachers, and you are not my followers. Because each of us just look at the mind individually, wholly, completely. And then we understand this. But verbalizing it, like what I'm doing now, is not necessary for everyone. Because you feel it, you get it. verbalizing it is it's another way of influencing other people, spreading the message, right? And if people couldn't really look at the mind themselves, the very listening to those words can be very misleading. So I look at the mind. It's, I don't think it's wrong to have desires. And anything wrong with it? We are human. Animals also have desire. Why can't we have? But the problem is that, can we not be slave to it? Can we see the desire peacefully? So give us freedom from being enslaved, being attached to some desires, which only leads to all kinds of chaos, conflicts, sufferings, as everybody can feel, right? Only after we see it, then we could act. Action only comes from seeing. Reaction only comes from thoughts. Where there's thought, there's no seeing. Thoughts only blocks the view. Then the view is blocked, we could see nothing. Then we can only do is react. Right? React all the time in a web of reactions. Until we see the desire, then we have an action. Out of that observance, meet the desire, or let go of it. Maybe it's time for us to meditate for 10 minutes. To calm down first. I think this discussion can be good, can be bad, we don't know, but it always makes the mind active. Walking out thoughts means calming down the nerves. Then we can have another open discussion. So now I will play the audio guide so everybody can follow the audio guide to take breaths, the breath meditation. And see you guys in 10 minutes. Now, let's take a 10-minute meditation. Start by taking a moment to find a comfortable position to sit in a posture that you feel relaxed and get alert. Let hands rest on your knees or laps. Let the eyes close gently. Soften your forehead. Act a soft smile in the corner of your lips. Breathe naturally. As you breathe in, be aware that you are breathing in. Feel the sensation of breathing in. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. As you breathe out, be aware that you are breathing out. Feel the sensation of breathing out. The region can be the nostrils, can be the belly, can be anywhere. Focus on the part you feel most. Fix your attention on the breath. Let go of any thought, words, images. This moment, nothing is more important than breath. While you are listening to the bell, check where your attention is. If it wasn't on the breath, after the bell, gently invite your attention back to the breath and sustain your attention on the breath. Slowly bring your awareness back to this room. Feel into your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open. You may find that the very exploration of the mind in this way, like we sit together to look at the mind, is a very tricky thing. Tricky is that we need to see the mind, but at the same time, we could slip into the thoughts. That can be a challenge for many people, right? It's easy for such a discussion to become a very entertaining conversation. But the entertaining comes from our reaction to thoughts, the pleasure from it. We could not deny it. It's a part of the nature of the mind. But can we go beyond it? To see the mind, to see the facts. You may have found that seeing and thinking is always next to each other. When there's no awareness, or when you have loosened your awareness, the very seeing can be thinking. But to meditate is to see, to be subtle enough in a peaceful way to differentiate seeing and thinking. Indeed, it is very subtle, right? Very subtle. On every corner of your life. See it. Not thinking about it, not ruminating on it. Just see it. That very thing brings peace. The peace with facts. The peace with this world. It's a small world because it's the mental world. It's the inner world. But it is also a big world because that is the inner projection of the mind. Calling it small or big only comes from the illusion we have had, right? Small or big is just an illusion. Actually, it's just a word, not a big word, not a small word. When you really give attention on the small word, actually you are focusing on the big word. Is it? The big word means the whole society, the setup, made up of all kinds of individuals. Each of them is dominated by the rule, by the nature of the mind. So when you're seeing the small world, the little world of you, you are seeing the whole world. Because everyone is dominated by this. You see yourself, so you see. No matter how they pretend, you can see them, right? Also, no matter how you pretend, you can see yourself. So that's all for today's topic. So now, if some of us have some questions or some topics to share, go ahead. Time to think, to prepare the topic you want to share.
Right now, I'm empty of any questions. Sorry.
Great. Good. So, if there's no questions or no comments from everyone, now we are coming towards the end of the session today. And I just hope everyone has become or is becoming your passion, your interest. Life can be very superficial because life can be fraught with all kinds of interests, built on all kinds of desires. But an interest can also come from the passion to understand this whole process of life.
It's a bit strange that you talk about passion when we should be so in the balance. I'm lately finding difficult to be mindful and also passionate, and I see a conflict there between passion and desire and being equanimity and be at the center of things and seeing things. I'm struggling with that.
As Anna said so she feels a contradiction between the desire and the passion. So it could be another big topic, and I think it can be very challenging today to expound on this. But let's just try to be simple, be concise. To give a few words on passion and desire. Life is fraught with all kinds of desires. But if your life interest is purely led by desires, or we can see you are motivated by something, of course there's no passion. Because consciously or subconsciously, the desire plays the central role in the life, in your life, in the life. And then you won't have passion. So another desire is it. The very desire to have a passion, when desire plays such a central role in life, make it impossible to have the passion. In the past programs, we also talked about passion a few times. Only when we go beyond thoughts, free from all attachment to thoughts, desires, then there's a passion. That's new direction. There's a passion. It does not mean that you have no desire. It just means that desire does not play a central role in your life. Your interest is not built on the desire. At the same time, you still have some desire to live. To be healthy. To eat well sometimes. To be happy. If you see the desire, see the whole structure of desire, you will know how to establish the relation between the mind and the desire. We can live a life free from the attachment to desires. But it can't be a life free from desires, because life will lose the fun if there's no desire. So having a desire has no issue. But if your life is purely led by desire, that can be an issue. So I hope this very concise answer has answered Anna's question, at least partially, hopefully.
A very interesting question, I think. But thanks for your explanation.
I think to in meditation, in this life, it's not about having or not having, which is it's a kind of extremity we easily can go into. But it's about what to focus, what not to focus. That's where the conscious life lies in, right? We want to have no desire, free from anything. That very desire is still there, creates this kind of contradiction. But if you see the whole structure of it, you know how to steer your attention, how to steer your life. To live a life, there's no extremity. It's a life full of peace and calm. Always a simple way to go extreme. It creates all kinds of deviations. Right? If we have a black, we have a white. That's extremity. That is a deviation. So to understand the mind is to understand there's no extremities at all. Everything is continuous on the mind. There's no white, black. There's no good or bad. So when a life is free from extremity, by negating the extremities we are all having, that kind of perception of the world clear up all the divisions, clear up all the extremities. Then what? There's no contradiction, right? There's no conflict. And that's the life. Great. Again, thank you for everyone being here tonight, spending the last hour together, exploring the mind. I hope the exploration has brought you each moment. Your life is the best teacher to show you what is the fact, what is true, what is false. And I hope everyone could enjoy this journey. A journey has a beginning, but no ending. Probably there's an ending until the very end of the life. This journey can be lonely, but it must be very, very rich. You know that. And I hope everybody can go deep. The true deep. And bring peace and calm to this small world, also the big one. Great. That's it.
I wish the same for you and all the listeners, and Anna, of course, and thank you, Cico, for this meeting.
Great. And I hope we can see each other again in the future sessions. Enjoy a good week ahead. Take care.
Thank you. Have a great week. Thank you so much to everybody.